1791. It is the end of a 3-year-long conflict between the Habsburgs and the Ottomans, in which Serbs played a strong role in favor of the Habsburgs, liberating the Sandžako Smederevo. However, with this war coming to an end, Serbs are once more integrated into the Ottoman Empire. They temporarily enjoyed peace under Haji Mustafa Pasha, but even this won't last forever. On December 27, 1801, renegade warlords called Dahijes returned to Serbia after being banished from it by Mustafa. They snuck into his private quarters in Belgrade. They assassinated him and took power into their own hands. They kidnapped Serbian children, forcibly converting them to Islam and making them soldiers in their armies, a practice known as the tribute in blood. The next year in 1802, Turkish citizens, Sipahi, and Serbs rose up in Požarevac against the Dahijes, but it was too early and their leader was killed. Nevertheless, they wanted to try again, to punish the Dahijes and restore Ottoman power. However, their plans were again intercepted by Dahijes, who began massacring around 100 to 150 Serbian chiefs, elders, and priests all across the region, but it backfired. In a small village in central Serbia, around 300 remaining Serbian elders meet. The mood is grim. Most of them escaped being captured. Some lost friends and family. They all agree that a rebellion must take place immediately before more of them are killed, but none wish to lead one. First, Stanoje Glavaš rejected being the supreme leader, then Vuje Ilić, then Marko Savić, then Teodosije Maričević. But finally, after reelecting, Đorđe Petrović, known to history as Karađorđe, agrees to the position. The archpriest present at the assembly blesses Karađorđe, and all present swear an oath of loyalty, ready to begin the revolution immediately. Karađorđe went out with 200 men to negotiate with Aganuja, one of the Dahijes, who had about 400 men. But there won't be any negotiations. Once both sides arrived, conflict began almost immediately. Eventually, both sides stopped fighting. 36 Janissaries lay dead. Aganuja was wounded and retreated the next day. News of this small but important victory spread like wildfire. Across the entire Sandžako Smederevo, Ottoman governors retreated to cities and fortifications while the countryside fell to local leaders. Karađorđe now strikes south towards Rudnik, where one of the Dahije's brother, Saliaga, holds a strategic garrison. Local Serbian leaders already assembled around the town to cut off all supplies and to prevent them from looting Serbian villages. Now reinforced with Karađorđe's main army, they attempt to negotiate with the native Turks, promising that they will be left in peace if Saliaga leaves the town. However, these negotiations were futile. Seeing that there are no other options, Karađorđe orders his men to prepare for an attack. But before he could attack, Ottoman garrison attempts a breakout. However, the Serbian army holds forested hills and puts a devastating stand. In an instant, Saliaga's army begins to retreat and finds shelter inside the town fortress, while the Serbian army attacks. After this, the Ottoman garrison agreed to leave the fort, while the native Turks were left to live in peace. The Serbian commanders were aware of Saliaga's deeds, participating in killing the nobles, looting a monastery, and enslaving women. Because of this, they weren't willing to let him escape and prepared an ambush ahead of him. Saliaga noticed fresh movement on the road to Čačak, so he changed his route, but the Serbian ambush pursued. 2 Janissary commanders were killed in the ambush, and Saliaga escaped with just a skeleton force of 300 men. The Serbs have stood their ground and won without the help of any foreign power, which many thought impossible. But now, As more and more people join the uprising, the dream of liberation seems possible. In western Serbia, an army from Ottoman Bosnia has arrived. They were highly motivated and unafraid of the rebels, claiming that one of ours is enough for 50 Serbs. They combined forces with Janissaries from Šabac and attacked Jakov Nenadović, who was making entrenchments at Valjevo. Upon seeing the Ottoman army, the Serbian rebels abandoned the construction and scattered into the village and surrounding forests. Thinking the Serbs were defeated, the Ottomans took position inside the fortifications, but it was a trap. The rebels quickly reorganized and started attacking the fortification from all sides. Away from other Ottoman armies, they are surrounded in a hostile area, with Serbian rebels shooting at them from all directions. The Bosnian soldiers break first. Serbs allow them to leave, but want to take the Šabac Janissaries as prisoners. In the confusion, the entire Ottoman army begins to flee, and the rebels open volleys of musket fire at them, leaving 270 dead and many wounded. At Valjevo, Matija Nenadović and Nikola Grbović encircled the town, which was in the hands of Porečalija. They did not want to assault the city like Rudnik, since Valjevo was ready to defend itself and they did not have Karađorđe's main army. Instead, they attempted to negotiate with the native Muslims living in Valjevo to give up Porečalija in exchange for being left in peace. To make sure the Turks took them seriously, Grbović began setting hay on fire, but Kedić, another commander around Valjevo, mistakes this fire for a direct assault and decides to attack. Caught by surprise, Porečalija begins to set houses on fire to gain distance from the rebels, as he begins to regroup at a fortified position, where Janissaries and native Turks now are. Matija Nenadović is soon informed of the situation and joins fighting from the north. However, as dust settled, the Serbs were satisfied with what they had achieved and retreated across the Kolubara river to continue the next day. As dust settled, they saw fires from Valjevo, Rudnik, burned inns in every town and village, and now Valjevo in flames too. Porečalija is aware he cannot hold his position any longer and orders a retreat towards Soko. Matija Nenadović with his uncle Jakov Nenadović now puts Šabac under siege, but fail to take its well-defended fort since they have no cannons. In eastern Serbia, Milenko Stojković, Petar Dobrnjac, and a few other local commanders rose up. They defeated Turks at Ram, which cut Dahije's communication from Belgrade to Vidin, where another renegade janissary called Osman Pazvanoglu was. They cleansed most of the eastern Serbia and put Požarevac under siege, but were unable to take it since they lacked military power. Having achieved much success in just a month, the Serbian rebel army is given 3 days to rest, as leaders consolidate their power and prepare for new conquests. However, there are still powerful Ottoman and renegade armies that threaten this new-born state. 2,000 soldiers in Bosnia preparing to attack once more and free Šabac from its encirclement. 2,000 soldiers in Belgrade under direct command of the 4 main Dahijes preparing to strike and combine with the additional 2,000 garrison of Jagodina and Ćuprija.